Left in Kentucky, the podcast of Indivisible, Northern Kentucky. Welcome back, everybody, to another week of Left in Kentucky. Hope everybody's been having a good time, enjoying their summer. Here, as usual, is Roberto Henriquez. That's me, and joining me, the lovely and talented Miss Ann Dickerson.
Hey, everybody.
And the also lovely and talented Miss Amy Ferguson.
Hello.
Oh, so another boring week of no news, nothing going on anywhere. Just that's the thing about summer. You know, you get a chance to relax and not have to worry about anything.
It's true.
Where you get that good stuff from?
You guys are mainlining that news. That's the problem.
He's got up to medical grade shit over there.
This is my new normal.
Good Lord, child.
Oh, too funny. So
I mean, you gotta have a hobby.
Yeah. So so we're once again descending into the seventh circle of hell with COVID cases and deaths skyrocketing across the country, and fortunately here in Kentucky we managed to kind of keep it at bay for a little bit, but now we've started increasing here. So as a result, since we haven't been able to be good and do what we're supposed to do, we now have to wear our masks, which we should have been doing all along. And if we had been doing, we'd be in much better shape.
Yep.
It's such a simple thing. I don't get it. I just really don't get it.
These people wear shoes, right? I mean,
well, some of them.
I don't know. I mean, we are in Kentucky.
So. Common sense is a rare commodity these days.
That's true.
Bless their hearts.
But it should be that simple, right? No shoes, no shirt, no service. So, no shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service. I don't see how it's a difference.
That's right.
So anyway.
Well, you know, I was talking to my husband about this last night, and because we were trying to figure out the reasoning behind this. My liberties, and my hypothesis is that because things are so out of control, people are getting sick, things are shutting down. We are having to try to find a new normal, and people are realizing, hey, we're not going to go back to what we had before, so that is one way that they can try to hold on to some kind of control over their life. Okay, I'm not wearing a mask then, which is wrong-headed, obviously, but maybe explains a little bit about people going nuts over this. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's as good a argument as any. It's
I'm grasping at straws here, guys. I mean, it could be, mama dropped you on your head, it could be that, but
yeah, I've just never seen the culture of it isn't happening directly to me, so it must not actually be happening, be so quickly entrenched in something as I've seen it in this.
It's no wonder when we have the king of narcissists, as a president.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is this. I mean, it's also that the squeaky wheel gets the grease type deal, because in truth, polling shows 73% of the people in Kentucky are all for the masks.
Yep.
Which means we got 27% of the population through radical loudmouths like your Savannah Maddoxes of the world, who, are advocating for this extreme crap under the guise of quote unquote the Constitution, and the epic takedown of her every single one of her arguments through Thomas Massey's Twitter page was the most beautiful thing I saw this week because he had lawyers coming after him going, you know, this one lady, God, she was beautiful. She's like, perhaps you need a constitutional law 101. And she did a whole thread about him
Nice.
and negated every point he made. And I was like, I tweeted back to her. I said, can you please come to Kentucky because we have some state legislators that need
Right.
your lesson.
Yeah.
We should mail them all a copy of the Constitution.
Well, I think that's a great transition into our first cow patty today, and not as usual, being unusual, trying to be a little different. I'm going to go first this week. I usually don't go first with my cow patty, but my cow patty goes out to Savannah Maddox.
Ah. We're all surprised.
Yeah, so this week Savannah decided to jump on the idea of filing a lawsuit against Governor Beshear for his executive orders, and under the pretense of restoring the republic, that's with a small r, the Republican form of government that is ensured to all states in the Constitution. The argument being that because the governor is sending out these not sufficiently narrow executive orders, that it's unconstitutional, and it's basically he's acting as a dictator. How dare he want to help us stay healthy and not die from COVID-19? That's just one of the most selfish acts I've ever seen in my life.
So, well-deserving patty.
Hopefully there was enough sarcasm dripping off the end of that. So
I think our listeners know.
Yeah, so Savannah, thanks for that. Here's something for you. All right, who's next?
I can go right into the same sort of line with our Attorney General. Our Attorney General Cameron has decided he's going to file a lawsuit against the governor for his executive orders. Again, do these people sleep well at night knowing that there could possibly be the cause of someone's death? I mean, it probably will, right? I mean, people are going to see, hey, look, they're fighting against this mandate. And I've even seen things that say, oh, because he's done this, you don't have to wear a mask. So people are getting wrong information. And it's not like Andy Beshear is the only governor in the whole country that's asked people to do this.
Correct.
It's
The only one getting sued.
Right. It's not some radical idea or even that big of an ask. Let's be real, guys. I mean, if you can put on some shoes, you can put on a mask. It's, I'll get you one if you can't find one. So
yeah, it's to me it's I don't recall reading in the Constitution where there's a constitutional right guaranteed to not have anything covering your face. It's the same thing as having to wear clothes. You can't go out in public without any clothes on. You have to wear clothes. Now they can be pretty skimpy, but you still have to wear some clothes.
Right.
And if you can require that, why can't you require people to wear a mask? And then there's also the turnaround of that, right? Because some of the same people who are complaining about having to wear a mask are some of the same folks that show up in Frankfurt with their guns wearing masks.
Oh, I know. I mean, we're not,
My favorite, I'm sorry, but my favorite are the signs that say "My body, my choice."
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
I just can't.
Now it's my body, my choice.
And the funny, it's like drunk driving almost. It's like you can hurt other people with your reckless behavior. It's not just about you.
Yep.
The complete lack of empathy that's just running rampant.
Yep.
I mean, is just so disheartening to me. I mean, I can protect myself pretty easily. But how many people are going to be sacrificed to this stupidity? I
Yep.
mean, it's going to be eye opening for a lot of people. I think when the shit finally hits the fan, when the cow patties start flying, yeah, like that.
Well earned, Attorney General Cameron. Well earned. All right.
The other thing is that a lot of people don't realize this is a flip flop move for him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing to keep in mind, because originally, he was not. He had said something. Gosh, I can't
It
remember.
was common sense. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like, what are you doing?
It's political.
It is political, but here's the funny thing, and see, I swear I feel like a gerbil on one of those wheels. Because people be like, well, we all know that he's Mitch McConnell's lackey, blah, blah, blah. But you have Mitch McConnell advocating for masks.
Yes.
And advocating for it not to be stigmatized.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to ring his bell and go, yoo-hoo, your minions in Kentucky aren't getting the message. It's just so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
It'd be funny if it wasn't fatal.
Yep. All right, Anne.
Okay, so we're going to keep this theme going.
Yeah.
Speaking of circles of hell.
Right. Oh my God. I have no choice because, well, I do, but I probably have 3 top favorites that anybody that knows me or listens to us regularly could name.
Mm-hmm.
Roberto took one of them, so I was at a really tough point here between my other 2 faves. So I still have to go. I'm sorry, with Damon Thayer. Because his life's work, his life's mission is to get paid to bitch. Seriously. I mean, what? Name a single thing this man has proposed to in any way help. And you could really honestly apply that across the board almost in its entirety.
Help himself.
They help themselves.
The GOP in Kentucky.
They help their wealthy cronies and donors.
Right. But what I'm saying is this, that, every single one of them comes out to gripe, to snipe, with no alternative proposal. It would be different if they were like, well, we're against this. We think the governor is doing a bad idea. Here's our alternative. But they don't have that.
Yep.
Right? Instead, they're trying to pit 2 issues against each other, and that's never going to work. Right? They're trying to pit safety, the health and welfare of the population of the people in Kentucky against the economy. And that's never going to work because the 2 go hand in hand.
Yep.
And until just don't like that Bashir got elected.
Not that it hasn't always been there. I just don't think it has been this blatant before, because now we have this game of pile on going on, right? Yep. And Daniel Cameron, Amy, as you pointed out, he's the perfect example. Hang on a minute.
Boy, are my dogs barking.
That dog's chasing that cow right out of the field.
No, I think what the GOP has gotten really good at is creating these false choices. Right. These either ors that aren't actually either ors that we have to choose from, right? Like saying that the Republicans want to open businesses, the Democrats want to keep businesses closed. Whereas no, The Democrats want to open business safely.
Right. Right. But it's not like it's more than just that, right? Because the other issue that they keep hammering is all the problems that have gone on with unemployment in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So, we really need to take a step back and look at it objectively, which is that never do they mention that under Matt Bevin's tenure, and every single one of the people that I speak of, definitely a Bevin lackey, a Bevin Republican, and that certainly applies to Damon Thayer.
Oh, yeah.
It also applies to John Schickel.
Yep.
Also applies to Representative Osborne, and
Don't forget Savannah.
Definitely Savannah Maddox, and that what they saw once Matt Bevin got elected, right, was this embrace of the extreme.
Right.
And they saw themselves for the first time in a really long time with unimaginable power, especially once they secured a supermajority in both the state house and the state senate in 2016. So, it's comical. It's absolutely comical for somebody like Savannah Maddox to talk about the unchecked power of the governor, when the fact of the matter is, for the last almost 4 years, we've been dealing with the unchecked supermajority in both legislative chambers that have been able to advance their own ideological wish list, regardless of who the governor was.
Right.
And so, again, here we are. They want to fight against masks. They want to do anything and everything they can to try to attack Bashir, because he does have unprecedented approval ratings, and they're still high.
Yep.
Yes.
He's still way over 50% in approval, which means that they realize that even, Republicans and tons of independents are falling to Bashir's side and his attitude about the best ways to deal with this. So my suggestion to them is
get on board
or shut up. Well, or I'm not even saying get on board, even though I think what Bashir is doing is absolutely right.
Yeah.
I 100% approve of the way he's doing it. And the model that I would use, quite frankly, is New Zealand.
Yeah.
I mean, they were able to eliminate COVID in a month. How did they eliminate it completely? Severe mandated complete and total shutdowns and mask wearing. I mean, severe
and
like
massive testing.
Nobody in the United States has seen. But here they are now, happy-go-lucky. They don't even have to deal with COVID anymore. The fact that the results have been as good as they have been in Kentucky is a direct result of the actions that the governor has taken. But, of course they're not telling people that. It's just retail. It's garbage.
It's politics.
And to your point, if they want to disagree with it, but then come with another plan.
Yeah.
Say,
yes.
Well, I don't think we should do it that way. We should do it this way. And you never get that.
Right. And the other thing is, what I find the most humorous, actually, is they want to be catered to, right? Mm-hmm. They want to sit here and whine and cry about how, well, he's never collaborated with us. Guess what? The governor has an open door policy. If you really wanted to talk to him about this, if you really wanted to work something out, you'd have a plan, you'd march your ass into his office, and you'd say, we need to sit and talk about this now. You wouldn't sit here and put out op-ed after op-ed or commercial after commercial whining and crying and making, lies your primary statement on any issue. And that's exactly what they're doing as a whole. And they think that it's going to help them. But everything that we see right now with recent polling in Kentucky, and by recent I mean this past week, speaks counter to that. It's not working, and they better get on, realize
because
it
it's
quick. And
real.
go, yeah, I mean, I just, I don't know.
People
I'm
can look at
dumbfounded
data
at
and
this point.
see Kentucky's better off than a lot of places. You
Yep.
know?
Right. And that didn't just magically happen.
Right.
You look at places now like that are re-shutting down, like Texas and Florida, because of the absolute explosion of cases, because they never went to any lengths to be as protective of their citizenry as our governor was.
Right.
Even if I wasn't, you know, Team Andy to begin with, I'm objective enough and I'm scientific enough to look at the numbers, because the numbers don't lie.
Right.
Yep. Definitely. So as usual, a well-earned cow patty there.
He's got a huge pile. It's like February around the hay bales out there.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
no joke.
We got to
Though.
come up with our other one too.
Well, I mean, I think you pretty much covered Andy being. We can give him a bullhorn for finally doing the mask
Oh,
mandate.
I got a better bullhorn though. I got
Okay.
a good one.
Who's your bullhorn?
My bullhorn is Jeff Hoover. God, the former Republican Speaker of the House. I just have to read this because it's so, I don't know. He is just, I swear I want to ask him, are you going to switch parties? Because
Ask him to
because
come on the show.
here's his tweet. It is dumbfounding to me that an issue so simple as wearing masks in public is so important to the health and safety of ourselves and our fellow man has become so divisive and so political. Have we become such a selfish society that common sense to keep others alive is gone? Sad. Oh, brilliant.
Nice.
Yes. Yes. And I think he and another, Republican who is falls right in line with him is William Woods. And they're both going, what the heck has happened to my party and why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So but Jeff Hoover, for that tweet alone, yes, he deserves that special bullhorn sound.
Republicans do get bullhorns on this show.
Yes,
do.
they do. Yes, they do.
I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due.
You have said that before.
Regardless of what political lane you fall in. And that's just somebody that's showing common sense. And we need a heck of a lot more common sense in Frankfurt. If he was up here running, even running still as a Republican, but saying these kinds of things, I could vote for that. Absolutely could vote for that.
He might become the unicorn.
I'd have to look him in the eye first, but
yeah, or
Really?
unicorn.
Use
Everybody,
my witch power.
yeah, I don't know if everybody knows what our unicorn is. We've, Indivisible, we've always said, we look at candidates and we support progressive candidates. And, in the past it's been, oh, you just support Democrats. And it's like, well, those tend to be the only progressive candidates we find. We will be more than happy to support a Republican candidate if they support progressive values.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we call that the unicorn because so far that's how many of them we've found.
And you
Yeah,
can't
and for
just tape a
people-
horn on a horse. That doesn't count. Statement there.
And for
No.
people who need even more clarity on that, I mean, to me, the unicorn in terms of a Republican would be one who supports socially progressive ideas. I can even narrow it down to there.
Yep.
know, um, and
Sure.
what tends to happen is you see these people who, and we even have some of these kinds of candidates on the left side of the spectrum as well, that support socially progressive ideas, but who are more fiscally conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, the problem that comes in is when fiscally conservative is construed as austerity. Then we get into a lot of problems
Yep.
because the same people that you're trying to prop up with social progressivism tend to get squashed when it comes to austerity. So there's a balance that needs to be struck there. But I'm happy to find any unicorns we can find.
Yep. Absolutely. So we'll go on that unicorn hunt.
Oh,
I'm not going to do
we'll have
that.
to find a new sound for that.
Joining us now is Jim Fiorelli, who is running for State Senate in District 11, which is Boone County. Is that all? I'm not sure if that's all within Boone County or just mostly within Boone County, but
It's all of them.
all in all Boone County. So welcome to the show, Jim. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Great to be here. I appreciate the chance to take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you much.
Oh, great. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and maybe why you decided to run in this race?
Good. Little boring history. Born and raised in Milwaukee, Catholic grade school, public high school. I have 2 degrees. Chemical engineering is one of my degrees. Statistics. I've got an MS in statistics, which is mathematics for people that aren't that smart. So
I beg to differ.
Well, okay. I'm a math science guy. I've either lived or worked in Northern Kentucky for 30 years. I've been a Hebron resident for the past 20 years. Interesting for me since it's my life, but moved to Kentucky in 1988, divorced in 1999. Divorce was not amicable. I worked to get custody of the kids. I gained custody in 2001. I'm a father of 10 kids, 7 girls, 3 boys. At the time of the divorce, I had a 4-year-old. I had a daughter in grad school. So my objective, you'll note that I have no resume to run for public office. I've not run a company.
That's not a bad thing.
I'm not an attorney.
That's okay. We need fewer attorneys. So
okay.
Preach.
So, at the time of the divorce, at the time I gained custody, my ex-wife dropped out of their lives for 6-7 years. So although my kids had 2 parents, I was 1.9 of them. And so my sole objective was to make sure that their emotional, their social, their educational, and their financial needs were addressed. So anything that I had on the personal side took a back seat. Ultimately, and I firmly believe that no success can compensate for failure in the home. So the home was my objective. And although I didn't have complete success, there were a number of successes. Of my 10 kids, 9 are college grads. 1 will be. He's a late bloomer. And of the 9 college grads, 1 graduated cum laude, 2 graduated magna cum laude, 4 graduated summa cum laude. So, they're a smart bunch. I'm retired. At this point, I heard that when you're retired, you can take classes for free at NKU. I had a math science background, knew nothing about how the way our government worked. So I started taking classes at NKU. I took them for the last 3 years. That was one of the incentives for me running for office. What I learned there, always been a believer in the power of youth, and that certainly cemented My relationship with my classmates, all of whom I could be their grandfather, it's a terrific experience to share thoughts and the round tables at NKU with people that are 40 years younger than you. So
Great.
really enjoy it.
Great. So, what made you decide this was the time to run for this office?
Well, excellent question for which I have an answer that I hope will be adequate. First of all, I was compelled. I was compelled to run for this office. Not like Noah, I didn't fear being swallowed by, or Jonah rather, didn't fear being swallowed by a whale if I didn't run. For the many times that I thought before I actually filed that, do you really want to do this or not? The thought kept on coming back, you've got to do this. And you've got to do it because it's, to some extent, it's a redemption on my part. It's a redemption for not having been involved for the time that my kids were being raised. And ultimately, I didn't ever want to face my kids or my grandkids and have them ask me, you were smart enough, you were informed enough, you were healthy enough. The place is a mess and you didn't do anything about it. So that's pretty much my motivation for running.
Okay, great. So issues going on in the state. There's a lot of stuff going on, I'm sure. Do you have any particular issues that are kind of near and dear to your heart, or that you're emphasizing in your run?
I have to say that there's one issue which looms extremely large for all of us. And it's one that was imposed upon us by the advent of the coronavirus, and that is money. That's the state budget. We are facing as a state, and will continue to face, I think, for the next year at least, unprecedented costs, unknown costs. We don't understand what the magnitude of those costs will ultimately be. We don't know what the end point is at this point. And we're in a position where we can't exit the battlefield. We've got to continue to spend to bring this to a closure in the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
So on the cost side, we're facing some horrendous costs. Now, and the revenue side is just as bad. Because of Corona, at least for 3 months, there was a reduction in people traveling. It was great for traffic. You could get any place you wanted without a traffic jam. But bottom line is,
Of course, nothing was open to go anyplace, but
really, no revenue from gasoline taxes. Purchases were down in general. So as far as sales taxes were concerned, stores making purchases, the sales tax revenue was down. People were conserving available cash because they were out of a job. Payroll taxes were down. Heck, a third of Kentucky's workforce was out of a job at one point. I suspect it's somewhat better now, but I wouldn't be surprised if at present 1 out of 4 Kentuckians is still looking for a job. The social safety net not only did from a state standpoint, I think President Trump has gone out of his way since 2016 to erode the safety net for working people across the United States and in Kentucky as well. Our rainy day fund is gone. So I feel that the biggest challenge facing anybody in Kentucky, and there's some scary stuff out there. It's all due to the fact that as a state, we're required to balance the budget, and the pie has shrunk. That's an important issue for me.
So how do you have some ideas how we address that? I mean, how do we address the funding issue?
Well, on the funding side, I have some thoughts, and having not been in Frankfurt, I don't know if they're viable thoughts or not, but one thing that we could do out of the chute, and something that Governor Beshear has already started is reforming the prison system. For one thing, if we had a bail initiative, a bail reform initiative, and we didn't incarcerate people for low-level offenses, but okay, if we turn to additional supervision, pretrial services, I feel that we could probably save about $150 million by not incarcerating people. For most states, including Kentucky, the cost of incarceration is the third, fourth, or fifth budget line item for every state. We could save at least $150 million by going to pretrial services as an alternative to incarcerating people who can't pay bail. Also on the bail side, if you're in jail, you aren't making money. If you're in jail and you have a family, your family is in jeopardy because of that. So that is one issue. Another thought that I had has to do with the way in which traffic tickets are imposed. Right now, traffic tickets are, let's say that they're not pushed by local law enforcement because most of the money goes to Frankfurt. So there's little local incentive for a police officer to give a traffic ticket. I feel that if one law was changed, that law being that the current way that the law works is that police officers can't ticket a car. They must ticket the car owner. But if they could ticket a car, then they could easily reap the benefits of that by ticketing cars who are in handicapped parking spots, license plates that have expired. I think there's a huge amount of money available, or a huge amount of low-hanging fruit in order that would help alleviate the situation. But what I fear is that in the short term, that's not going to happen. But in the short term, what will be required to happen is that there will be layoffs, furloughs. I fear for the state of education, only 2-3 months away. I fear for what's going to happen in terms of teacher layoffs or staff layoffs. It's a frightening situation to be in, and it's something that I think we are ill prepared for as a state.
Right, so on the education front, you mentioned education. You know, there was the past couple of sessions. There's been a lot of talk about the pensions, the teacher pensions, as well as the other public employee pensions and issues. You know, this seems to be a problem that the legislature keeps kicking the can down the road rather than dealing with. Last year, there was the special session where they
Sure.
voted to allow the medical department, the health departments and stuff to forego their portion of the payment down the line. So I guess what thoughts do you have about the public employee pension system and how we ultimately take care of that?
Okay, so now we'll give you a scenario. You've got a 22-year-old that just graduated from college with a teaching degree, and they actually got a job. So they're sitting across from their employer, signing their intake paperwork, and the employer says, and by the way, don't expect a pay raise for 10 years. There's no money for personal development, so forget about that. And you're going to have to spend 1 to 2 hours a day developing your own materials because there's no money in the budget for textbooks, although there was this year. I could put a caveat on that. Welcome, and we're going to mess with your pension. So welcome to teaching in Kentucky. now Frankfurt has unsuccessfully struggled with the pension for years. I have articles from 2016, 2017, one drafted by Dennis Keene when he was still in the legislature, 2018, 19, 20, all saying essentially the same thing. We've got a problem. We can't fix it. We seem to get one side to agree to changing the rules, if you will. We've got another side that says pension is a promise, and we want what we originally agreed to, regardless of whether you come up with alternatives or good ideas or bad ideas or partially better ideas. So we've been in a mess for a long time. One does not go from a fully funded pension in 2002 to the worst funded pension system in the nation in 2018. Now, as a math science guy, I learned the slope intercept equation for a straight line a long time ago, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope of the line. And I have to ask myself, was nobody watching the slope of the line? I can understand a funded pension going from let's say a 85% funded with 15% unfunded liability in year one to 79% in year two. And I could possibly believe that someone, due to circumstance or the Great Recession, lowering that funded portion of the pension a second year. But I can't understand how it happened for 10 years. Was nobody watching the slope of the line? Was nobody minding the store? Did anyone care that the pension was heading in that direction? So
I think we heard about it a few times.
I suspect that there are solutions. Now, here's the math guy in me again. I have looked at econometric models that suggest that a pension does not have to be fully funded to be viable. If we could fund the pension or over, we got into this mess over a decade. We're not going to get out of it overnight. So if we could continue to fund the pension incrementally and make it incrementally better for the next 3, 4, 5 years, where we get from 17% funded to 40 or 50% funded, we apply the piggy bank model, where those that are in teaching and in public positions, they're adding money to the piggy bank. Those that are retired are taking money out of the piggy bank. If we could fund at a 50% level and make everybody comfortable with that and continue to increase that funding over time, but even at a 50% level, the piggy bank model suggests that you could have no fear for your pension being available to you in perpetuity, and people could live in dignity without fear that they would have that pension until the day they died. So the starting point is to incrementally change the numbers to get to a 40% level of funding, a 50% level of funding, and then increase it from there. But that increase in funding is not going to happen overnight. And I think some of the folks that are not currently open to alternatives may have to come to the realization that either they modify their thinking, they comfortably modify their thinking, or the pensions will go down the tubes for everybody. So
I think part of that is the goal, though. I mean, you've got a couple of prongs here, a couple of things that to look at. At one time, the pensions is specifically teacher pensions because there's several different ones, and it's important to keep that in mind.
You bet.
You know, the legislators themselves, who are in fact nothing more than part-time employees, have
Mhm.
made sure that their pensions are fully funded,
Oh,
while the
absolutely. They have no unfunded liability.
while the teachers have suffered.
Yes.
And what's important to note is that at one time, the teachers' pension fund was funded to over 120%.
Okay.
And that's where trouble started, because I don't even remember now, going back in order, who was the first governor to dip into it. But God knows
Sure.
the 4 Patton years were not Patton, Fletcher, were horrible on us. But first, what happened was the governor just dipped into it. It's like, oh, well, it's over 100%. So we've got
Sure.
excess dollars. So we're going to borrow that, and we're going to use it in our rainy day fund, or we're going to use it for this
Surely.
pet project we want to do, what have you. Then you also had the Great Recession. Then you also had during that time, some really, really sketchy investment
Oh,
schemes
yes.
going
I'm
on.
aware of that.
So it's like you had all of these things culminate in decreasing the amount funded from over 120% down to like in the 40%
Sure.
range. I've not heard that it's lower than that at this point. So 17% sounds really shocking to me. But here's the thing. Despite everything that the state government did in inappropriately managing those funds, the teachers have a point, which is they've always paid what they were supposed to pay. They've always
Yes.
followed the rules. So it's hard for me to suggest that they in any way need to shift their thinking, because they did follow the rules. You know, Kentucky Fried Pensions is a great book
Mhm.
when it comes to all of the shenanigans that
Sure.
have gone on. And certainly instituting rules and laws or whatever about how that system is managed need to be tightened down and need to be strictly followed. But I don't know. The other problem is that we have teachers leaving in droves right now. And so the more people that we have leave the system, the less people we're going to have paying into the system, the harder it's going to be to recover the system. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I mean, it's like all of these intricate gears for this one system that have all come together to collaborate in a stopped engine.
You know, that
So
that I don't disagree with anything that you said, and everything that you said is factual. But we have to face reality. We have to face where we are right now. History doesn't mean anything at this point if the pension system is underfunded in a great big way. So how are we going to solve that? We're going to get uh, we have to bring people to the table, people that are affected by it. We have to have oversight. We have to make sure that these um, questionable investments are not part of the pension system. We have to do a lot of different things. Pensions are funded to a far greater extent than the teachers' pensions are. So, something is amiss, and we've got a lot of people that are um, voicing their opinions right now. I think all those opinions should be heard. I think there's solutions out there, but we're going to have to work through uh, the problem, and we're going to have to work through it together to come up with a solution.
yeah, I agree with you there. I think one of the other problems though is this, and you can see it, from our perspective here in northern Kentucky, simply by crossing the river into Ohio. Because teachers in Kentucky can literally cross the river and take a job in Ohio, and instantly they're making 10 grand more a year. Instantly. I when I started teaching, I had my master's degree and I still qualified for public assistance. That's how low my pay
Oh
was.
yes,
I mean, you
horrible.
see you see all this rhetoric about what these fantastic numbers that supposedly represent teachers in Kentucky. But the fact of the matter is, when I started as a teacher, I barely was making 32,000 a year, and it was going to take me 11 years to crack 40,000 in the school district that I worked in.
It's horrible. That's horrible.
Right. But that's the trade-off for the pension that teachers agreed to. We'll take less money up front to be protected on the back end.
Sure.
So now it's kind of like they're getting hit on the front and the back end, because now they're being told, well, we can't cover you on the back end. Well, that's fine. If you can't cover me on the back end, then I want my front end covered, and I want to get the kind of pay that I was supposed to get. Well, we can't do that either. I mean, it's like, no matter what, they're the one group that's going to get screwed. And that just seems, beyond unfair, because people plan their life events around this knowledge and around these things.
Think of a retiree. I'm retired. I don't have any financial worries, but my gosh, if I were in trouble and had to try to find a job today, I'd never be able to find one. And what you said about teachers' salaries. I read an article recently that said exotic dancers make more money than teachers. I mean, holy wow, where are we?
I can vouch for that.
Oh, really? Okay, got some experience there.
No, I just know people.
She's people who knows people.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's why you keep me around, right?
Yeah, that's it. So, well, excellent.
Tell about those tassels, Amy.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to just about wrap it up for the time we have today. So if somebody wants to find out more information about you, Jim, or your campaign, maybe make a donation or volunteer, where can they get that information?
The campaign website is jimky2020.com. It's a great looking website. And of course, you can donate on the website. You can also donate on the Facebook page. Just type in Jim Fiorelli and a couple of pages will come up, and one of them is clearly my campaign Facebook page. Would appreciate donations. They're hard. It's hard to ask people for money. I think that's the hardest aspect of running for office when you've been independent for all of your life. And now, but let me digress just for a second and say, it's very humbling when people come out of the woodwork and say, how can I help you?
It is.
I've got people that have said, I can write letters for you. I'll knock on doors for you if we could knock on doors. It is extremely humbling for people that don't even know you to approach you and say, I want to help.
I would just remind people that Jim's running against John Schickel. And just look him up, folks. He's bad. Bad.
Yeah, we've talked about John Schickel once or twice on this show.
Jim would be so much more representative of what we need in Frankfort than John.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you saying that. I've studied his voting record. I've studied the bills he's put forth, the bills he's sponsored, the bills he's co-sponsored. I've got half a dozen bills where the vote in the Senate was 35-1, and he was the one. He is.
Maybe I'll call John and see if he'll debate you.
Well,
for a debate.
I would welcome that. I've got lots of ammo. I don't have the experience. I don't have the credentials, but I've got a lot of John Schickel ammo. So.
Yeah. I know people.
All right, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully we'll get that debate lined up. That'll be exciting.
Come on, John.
All right, so I'll put those. I'll put the website and the social media link on the notes for the show. So make sure to check those out and give Jim some support. Thank you very much for being with us today, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Jim.
Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Jim.
Bye-bye.
And that's going to wrap it up for this week on Left in Kentucky. Hope you enjoyed our episode this week. And we definitely want to thank Jim Fiorelli for being with us and sharing about his race and his campaign. We'll put that information on the website, and you can look that up.
So check it out.
Yep, check it out. Let's see. So far, we don't know who our next guest is going to be, so we'll leave that as kind of a surprise.
And if you're bored, write a letter to David Cameron and tell him he's bad. He's a poo-poo head.
David Cameron?
Oh no, Attorney General. Don't leave David Cameron out of this. I'm sorry.
We've now gone international on Left in
Today
Kentucky.
I've seen do that. That's funny.
I know.
Yeah. So anyway, leave David Cameron alone. Feel free to write
Yes.
Daniel Cameron and anybody else. Hey, if there's something you'd like to see us talk about, somebody you'd like to see us interview, drop us a line and let us know. Make sure you're sharing our podcast out there with all your friends and your enemies. It's a lot of fun to sit and listen with your enemy and then have your own debate afterwards. So
No, guys, don't do that.
do it. Send us sound clips. Anyway, until next week, you guys have a good time, and we'll see you next time.
Stay safe, guys.
See you later.
Left in Kentucky, the podcast of Indivisible Northern Kentucky.